Liquor Talk, another new episode starts now. Welcome everybody to another edition of the Liquor Talk podcast. Thank you for everybody for tuning in on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, the MBG Podcast Network, the Pod, the Podmatch Podcast Network. Thank you for everybody for tuning in. Ladies and gentlemen, season 8 has been a bit of a mom fest, ladies and gentlemen. So
Oh,
joining me today, another mom will come through. She is the Urban Lady Prepper podcast hosting. She's that podcast host, podcasting out of ATL. Shout out to Atlanta too, because Atlanta has been taking over Liquor Talk. So
yeah.
shout out to yes. How you doing, Miss Atlanta? Welcome to Liquor Talk.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me. So yeah, it's great to be here and to drink because I really haven't been drinking. So it's nice to have some wine after a while. It's
Yes,
been a week.
yes,
It's been a week.
yes. It has been a week. That's why I'm on some rum today.
Oh,
It has definitely been a week. So, why don't you tell us about your platform, the Urban Lady Prepper Podcast?
well, my name is Lynn Jordan, and I do have the podcast Urban Lady Prepper. I also have a 2 times a week blog, so it's a podcast and a blog. My website is urbanladyprepper.com, where you can find all of it. And basically, it's geared toward single moms and solo women who are with a practical approach to emergency preparedness. But everyone's welcome because there's always something to learn. There's always valuable information for anyone who wants to get better prepared for all the craziness that's been having and all the craziness that's to come. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yes. So, what was the inspiration behind creating your platform?
Um, it really started with just being aware of how unprepared everyone was in general for just the smallest things. And for me, I'm originally from New York, so I grew up in an apartment building, and it started off with every now and then the building would just turn the water off. They would have to do some work in the basement, and sometimes they would put the little flyers up by the elevator saying, "Hey, you're not going to have water tomorrow morning." And sometimes you'd get the flyer, and sometimes you won't. And then you wake up in the morning and there's no water, or you turn on the faucet and this brown stuff come gurgling out, and you're like, "I'm not doing anything with that." So that, and having a grandmother that grew up in the South, and she was just at the end of the Depression era, so she was very used to storing things and having water, and so it was kind of in my blood already a little bit to have that little bit extra and to always have something to be ready. And as I grew older and I moved out, I kept that up. And as I went through a couple of storms and a couple of random hurricanes and some power outages, it felt good to actually be ready and not be dependent on somebody else or anything else. I could pretty much handle it myself and get through it. And 2020 really put the urgency into making folks more aware about preparedness. There's really nothing to do in 2020. We were all in lockdown.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, I had taken a job in a city I'd never lived in before. I'd never been. Um, my husband was back in South Carolina. So I was by myself. Didn't have my dogs. I didn't have any friends. I was broke because the company was completely tanking out. It was a new company. So I was broke. Even if I had money, I couldn't go anywhere, even if stuff was free. And I had nothing but YouTube. So I already had some preps that I bought with me. I had extra food. I had my extra water stuff with me in my little apartment. And I got on YouTube and I started seeing prepper videos. As I'm watching them, I'm realizing that there were either a lot of ladies that were married with a whole bunch of kids and they had like 5 acres of land and they're growing all this stuff, or there were these Rambo type dudes that were all gatted down and ready to take to the forest and put on their war paint. It was just very extreme, and they didn't seem to have a lot or any that I came across at the time that focused on women in general that were prepping, and especially single moms that had kids. Now, I don't have kids; I have fur kids, but I have I had a single mom. My parents divorced when I was pretty young, and I knew a lot of single moms, a lot of my friends, and a lot of them weren't prepared for the most basic things. And it's not just them; it's like you have kids now that you're responsible for, and a lot of them didn't even have a flashlight. And as time is going on and we're getting all these disasters and they're happening more frequently, I just felt it was very important that the information gets out there. And for many of us who live in the city, we've become so dependent on things just working all the time and having all this access to stuff. And it's a dangerous thing to become dependent on someone else making something else work for you, especially when it comes to your food and your power and your water. And I really just got that going. And I said, you know what? I think there's this niche here. You know, the single women in the city, people really aren't doing this. And that's where it got started. So I started the website. It took a couple of years because there was a lot going on, but I started with the website and I started with the blogs, and I just decided to jump into podcasting. Like, all right, well, I don't have to be an Instagram model. I don't have to have 8,000 degrees. I have this knowledge and I have this experience, so I want to put it to good use and share it with people. And so far, it's been doing very well, which I which showed that I was
Hmm.
doing the right thing. Yeah.
Yes, you are definitely doing the right thing and sharing it via a podcast. But I definitely agree with you. I definitely understand why you started, because I think 2020 shocked us all when we didn't have access and all we had to do was just be in lockdown. And it's like, so of course you're gonna sit on YouTube and just learn different things. And hey, I ain't gonna lie, during 2020 is when I discovered the podcast boom, because I realized that, no knock against people in my city, but I realized people will show up faster for you. And also, it's also good to be prepared, because you really never know what can happen. If, especially me living in Florida, I learned the hard way that, yeah, we need to have a generator or have some kind of backup power source, because
I am
Hurricane
actually, I am
Hurricane
shocked.
did some numbers, and I'm like, we were without power for days, and then we were out gas for days, and then once the gas tanks started rolling in, people were going crazy. So it's like I'm a little prepared, but I'm not going to be buying five and 6 gallons of gas for no reason when it's just my car. That's all I have.
Yeah. And that's the thing about preparedness. There's a spectrum. You know, you can go from just having enough to get through a couple of weeks, which is the bare minimum that anyone should have, especially if they have kids or if they have animals. You want to make sure that you at least have a couple of weeks to get through. And that's, I think, even with FEMA, that's their bare minimum. Um, but you can go from that all the way to folks that have underground bunkers, and they've got all kinds of ammo stored. They're just prepared for like the zombie apocalypse. So there's all kinds of stuff in between. But what has fascinated me is how many folks in the South in particular, and this is something that, as I mentioned to you, I was talking to Kim Butler from Urban Homestead Hub. She's in Tampa as well. And she's not originally from here. She's from Florida. She's from California. And she said she was so surprised when she got to Florida, and with all the hurricanes, with all the natural disasters that happened in Florida. She's like, yeah, there are people down here that don't even have a flashlight. They have no candles. And it blew her mind, and it blew my mind even more. It's like, you guys are more experienced with natural disasters. You think that folks would be a little more cognizant of doing a little bit better, but apparently not. Coming from New York, we really don't have a whole lot of natural disasters. We have our blizzards and whatnot, but it wasn't until recently that we started having like the Hurricane Sandys and the Hurricane Irene. Before Sandy, we didn't have the last hurricane was 1980,
Wow.
and we're on a fault line, but we don't feel 99.9% of them. So our big thing is like we might get a nor'easter every now and then. We never got tornadoes. So that was something we kind of got spoiled by. So when you see folks that are in tornado zones or they're in hurricane zones, and they don't they barely have a couple of days worth of food or any water or anything like that, it's just like, wow, you realize this happens to you a lot, right? And you're
Yeah,
not
it
anticipating the
does.
sameness. So yeah, it's been a little eye opening to come down south and just realize that folks have become very complacent about natural disasters, even when they happen rarely, pretty frequently.
Yeah, I would definitely say people get complacent about them because we realize how to deal with them, and then we realize in a few days they'll just blow over. But I think this time around it really humbled us, because I would say, like I said, I know for a fact where I was living at, we were out without power for like a good feels like a week, but it's like 4 or 5 days we were without power, and then, excuse me, of course our jobs wasn't letting us come back to work because they didn't have power either. So,
Right.
so I think this time around we gonna be a little more prepared. It may be just go to a different part of Florida, you know. So,
I mean, can you imagine if during the pandemic there was no internet?
oh man, if Wi-Fi ever shut down, man, I think the world will end.
Yeah.
Because I mean, people. Because during the pandemic, you had to be in your house, and yeah, you had to get to know people and stuff. You had to relearn people, but most times people can just sit and be on technology all day. They'll be okay.
Yeah. And it's one of the when I old banner quotes. Some I can't think of the person who quoted it, but he says we're basically 3 days without food and water before anarchy hits because we've all gotten so comfortable. So if you have no internet and you're out of your food and you're out of water, it just doesn't take much for people to figure out that they have to do whatever they can to survive. We're really
Oh,
just not that far from it. And as time goes on and as things get more and more interesting, with the current climate, we're probably going to see a level of desperation we haven't seen in a while. And
yeah.
that's why I've been kind of pushing. Because for me, I'm not in this to be famous. This is just not my thing. I'm just so passionate about making people more aware, and especially us. Okay, they're trying to get us out in the street, and we're not going. We already know what's up. I think that because we've gotten so far removed about where our food comes from and how the supply chain issues are going, because we're just so used to having everything convenient, and convenience can be a killer. We just really have to be more aware of how things are deteriorating and how the weather is going to get worse. All these different disasters we're having, these hurricanes, these tornadoes. I mean, just the last couple of weeks, if you're paying any sort of attention to the weather, I mean, the Midwest and the South, the Southeast, barring Atlanta, I mean, Georgia, we got kind of lucky, but they were getting torn up by storms and tornadoes and floods and all kinds of things. It's constantly getting worse. So now more than ever, it's just really important that the message gets out that to be a little more prepared and taking into account your personal situation, your location, what's most likely to happen, to at least have a plan and have the bare minimum to get through a couple of weeks because it can get ugly very fast.
Oh yeah, it can definitely get ugly, especially don't want to take it political, but especially when we look at who's in office right now, it's gonna get ugly real fast. So we
That's what I'm
may
saying.
want
That's
to
what
go
it
ahead
is.
and start getting prepared because well, who we got in office, and plus these supply issues and stuff. So all it takes is one natural disaster to fuck up some more shit, and it'll be
Oh,
crazy.
no, absolutely. And that's why I'm saying it's like it's going to get more interesting because what we have going on now is that a lot of things are being dismantled that people have gotten used to or that people have been using to supplement their income, and they're taking that away and then dismantling everything that folks have okay, I don't need this, but this is supplement, this is putting food on the table, this is helping me get by. And when you take those away and you're laying people off or you're firing people and you're messing with their social security, it's you're putting people in a state of desperation.
You're
And
putting people in a state of desperation just to line your pockets, which is so fucked up. And it's like now
you know
it's like, and me being my age, I'm thinking I'm definitely looking at these people, Americans living in other countries. They over here, they living their best life, but I know they have struggles. There's pros and cons to everything, but it's not as bad as over here. And that's
yeah,
why they're trying so hard to get rid of TikTok. And hell, even that damn Red Note app.
red note, yeah,
Yeah,
I need to get
because
on there.
that exposed the fuck up. Because I'm like China over here living good. Meanwhile, America wouldn't let you think that.
Right. I mean, because we've all been sort of taught this whole thing. Oh man, I'm glad I'm in America. I'm glad I'm not over there. Now, obviously, there's some places where I'm glad that I was born in America as a woman.
Exactly.
There's definitely some places where it's really awful to be a woman. So I appreciate it for that reason. But you see these other countries and how they live and how just their basic needs are almost rights. They live they have what they need and they're able to still go out to eat and have a good time. They're not killing themselves working. And you're like, man, my country's ghetto as hell. It's like it's bad.
It's
Everyone else is living it up, and we're just over here, on cheese and crackers and working 2 and 3 jobs and having all these side hustles. And no one else is doing that but us. And we're
It
not
really
even,
is. And because I looked at the cost of rent in some other countries and especially in other places, for what we pay here, we could pay like 6, 7 months out. I'm like, what the fuck? What the fuck
yeah.
are we
And
doing?
what are you paying for though? It's, and especially as a single person, and you take into account as women, even if we still get paid less, even if we're doing the same thing. And if you're a woman with children, so if you are a single mom and the dad's not in the picture or not being helpful, you have to, this is something you have to take care of by yourself. So you're already making less, you already have these extra expenses, and now you have to try and find a place to live. And you either end up someplace that's not good at all, where you're constantly worried about your safety, or you're all the way out in the freaking sticks because that's the only thing you can afford. And you shouldn't have to live like that, but that's just kind of where we're at because people just can't be rich enough, and they can't. It just seems like the very richest, the 1%. It almost, and I'm not one to begrudge the rich. I'm one of those people like, look, if you got your money, more power to you. Good for you. I harbor no jealousy or anything like that. But it just seems like the 1%. It just feels like sometimes they're not happy. They can't enjoy their money unless they're watching the people who don't have that kind of money suffer in some way. Like there's
Yeah.
no satisfying that level of greed. It's like it's not enough for me to have more money than my great 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 grandchildren will ever spend. But the underclass can't thrive. Why is it hurt? You're not, the rich aren't paying their fair share of taxes anyway. So what would it hurt them that we have a livable wage, that we have universal health care? That's only a healthy population is only going to help the country grow. It's only going to help the economy.
Yeah,
So
it's gonna
why do
help the
these people
economy.
suffer?
It's gonna help the economy, but they know in the long run they might find they will justify it as, oh, it's gonna hurt us. Motherfucker, it ain't. Man,
It's so
you
weird, and it's the same reason why
bloodline is already rich.
yeah, it's like you can't satisfy that level of greed, and I think that the average folks are just happy. Look, I want to have affordable rent. I want to be able to have food that I enjoy eating. That's not going to kill me, because believe me, they're doing their best to try and kill us. The food thing is a whole nother topic. Um, and just be able to go out and enjoy life. I'm in this country where we have all this opportunity, and we have all this great talent, and all these people that are out making this incredible art and giving us all this incredible culture, and I can't afford it. It's and it just so that someone who is a billionaire, it's just not enough for them. It's just very strange, and I guess maybe you have to have that kind of money to understand why it's so important to make other people unhappy so you can enjoy all that money. Um, but if that's a gene, I'm glad I don't have it, because I don't need to
Yeah.
see make other people suffer in order for me to enjoy my life.
Yeah, that's sad, and it's like, and that's the gene I wouldn't want to have either. Because if I have billions, I might be that one that's want to go around here and help people. But knowing the CIA and the billionaires might pay the CIA to take my ass out because I'm out here helping people and stuff.
Yeah, I mean,
They've
there's
done
people
it.
out there that,
They've
yeah,
done it. They've Do your research. They've done it to prominent people who billionaires who stepped out of line, who are actually trying to give back to the community. People that are trying to do right by the community and help uplift others. They will find a way to have their asses taken out, or they'll have them thrown in jail on some bullshit for something
or
they did
disappear.
20 years ago.
I mean, think of these inventive people that have come up with these amazing inventions or ways to keep people from profiting, but benefit the public as a whole. Uh, they disappear. You know, their
Mm-hmm.
their research disappears. And don't get me wrong, I am not one of those huge. Yeah, I am a prepper, but I'm not one of those conspiracy-driven prepper people. But you can't ignore that people who come up with these amazing inventions. Free electricity. I just was turned on to a fella that has it's hydrogen fuel, so you would not need regular gas. You would need oil, and it's like, oh, you got to protect that guy at all costs because he's going to disappear. The brother Moses West, who's pulling water out of the air. That we have these rich people that are trying to make drinkable water a commodity. And this guy, he went down to Louisiana and goes, "I'm pulling water out of the air that's drinkable that I can give to these people here that are impoverished or just went through this disaster. I'm giving them fresh, clean water pulled out of the air. It's not costing them anything." They don't want to hear that.
Of
the
course,
people that are. Mm-mm. So it's
they
like,
want to get rich.
yeah, the other fella, there's another young brother out here. He's making gas out of plastic. He's
Wow.
making blast. I wish and I'm so sorry, I can't think of what his name is, but he's young. I don't think he's 30, and he found a way to just break down this plastic and turn it into gas. It's like you got to protect him at all costs too, because he's going to disappear. We have to take care of these people because they're doing these things that would be so beneficial for the population as a whole. And big gas doesn't want to hear that. Big oil doesn't want to hear that.
Yeah.
Big ag doesn't want to hear about all these people that want to start growing their own food. No, we want to give you seedless things or seeds that won't grow anything. So you are dependent upon the franken food we want to force feed you. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's tough out here.
Yes, it's tough out here. And also, why you think they're going so hard after China? Because you watch Red Note, you will see all these goddamn Chinese inventions, Chinese different inventions to make their life simpler. Hell, Chinese, Japanese, and hell, even certain cars, certain electric cars, they won't even let them come over here because of of Tesla, obviously. But
Um,
it's like I'm like, God damn. Yo, I'm like, damn, Elon, these cars over here, they making, in China, just shitting on the Tesla.
well, someone said it was like a cross between a trash can and a doorstop, and I thought that was the most accurate description of the Cybertruck like ever. Aside from the fact that it's just an absolute piece of crap. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, and I mean, we even want to go into the fact how he's like technically illegal? Let's not even go there. But anyway,
Trump it sounds like Trump is a hypocrite to people who only get that money. It don't really matter that this man's from another country. He got billions of dollars.
well, the other thing is that he's of a certain shade. So
That's true.
let's not take that out of account. But yeah, anything that's going to cost the ultra rich even a fraction of their profits, which is why it's something that I posted about a long time ago. I don't even remember if it was a blog or just something I put on social media. Um, was that you have a company like the folks over at Walmart. The Waltons make more money than their great great grandkids will ever spend, but why are they paying their employees so little that they still need SNAP? Why? Why is the
It's sad.
government and our tax dollars supplementing people who work for the freaking Waltons? It's
Exactly. And it's
crazy to
like,
me.
and then they talked about if they lose money for stealing. I'm like, y'all only $3 billion lost. Meanwhile, y'all raking in 120 billion. Man, if y'all don't shut the fuck up,
Yeah, I forgot how
look,
much it was. They
I'm so
said I
glad
think
I don't. I'm so glad I don't work for the ones anymore. I did in college, but I don't do now. And it's like, and now when you think about it, I understand why people. I knew that. I knew there were some people they would steal shit off the truck. It's like now I understand why. I'm like, these motherfuckers, they make billions of dollars, man,
they
in their
do. I
sleep.
wish I could remember the actual amount that each of because there's six of them, if I remember correctly, and they make an obscene amount of money. And again, I don't begrudge people who get to make that money, but you're making all the other taxpayers supplement their employees, which
Exactly.
is crazy. Pay your share. No one's asking you to pay more than your share. If you're taking, 20 to 25% of my salary, take this whole oh well they give us jobs nonsense. So yeah, that's great. But the thing they just always lose sight of the fact that if you don't allow people to make a decent wage and you don't allow them to be healthy and not have to spend their money on on childcare and on healthcare, they're not going to buy your stuff. People need money to buy stuff. And Americans as
Thank you.
consumers, we are going to buy. We are and especially as black folks, we are major consumers, which is why Target
Yeah,
is starting right now.
man,
They're
Target is hurting right now. I
they're
mean, I haven't heard anything from Target saying they're announcing the rollback of the DEI initiatives,
they're
but
gonna have to.
they
They are
gonna have
definitely
to
going to have to.
because they are getting their ass whooped. I'm
They
like,
have
God
to.
damn,
And I
black
don't think
people
and
really held up Target.
I think Walmart might be hurting smarting a little bit too. I don't know by how much. They probably won't admit. And we are kind of strung out on Walmart, which is hilarious because Walmart is loaded with all that cheap stuff from China that we love so much because it's affordable. Um, so the whole game is being changed. But Target never got. I think I've been in Target twice in my life. I knew somebody who worked security in Target, and they flat out told him to watch the black people. And I'm like, excuse me? He goes, oh yeah, because he said they steal. I'm like, seriously?
They
And according
sound
to my
like
sister-in-law, I said to, like my sister-in-law used to say, God rest in peace, not one motherfucking dime. Not one. I think I've
Yeah,
been to Target twice in my life and I am 55. So, no. That's how you
yeah.
feel about it? No. So the whole thing about, well, we're going to boycott Target. I'm like, boom.
He like, welcome to the
Target would have definitely
party.
kicked my ass about 10 years ago. It's all good. Yeah.
Yeah, she like, welcome to the party. We've been doing this, ladies and
Already done
gentlemen.
that.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Look and Talk. The more you drink, the better we sound. Hope y'all enjoying this conversation, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
All right.
Since I haven't
So,
been drinking.
all right. So, Ms. Lynn, based on your podcast, what are some common emergencies that you feel like people are not prepared for? That if it happened, the average person would not know what the hell to do.
Um, None of them. And I'm not copping out. I'm not taking an easy way out on this. When what some of the feedback that I get and the things that I was coming across when I was putting everything together and recent feedback, most people were like, wow, I didn't have a flashlight. Or they have one, it doesn't work. The batteries have rotted in it. The first aid kit is dried up and everything's expired, or and all the band-aids are gone. They have nothing in their pantry. So even for a basic, say your power goes out for a week, you're screwed. If it's summer, they don't have a way to cool themselves. If it's winter, they have no way to heat themselves. So I think that most Americans, as a rule, are not prepared for anything beyond a couple of days. When I say 3 days, I literally mean 3 days.
Yeah.
Uh, where I'm at, the area that I'm at now, it's nothing for the power to go out. When I lived in Long Island, New York, anyone who's from Long Island will understand this. Light will just turn that power, it'll just go out. It's like, did somebody fart on the switch? Why did my power go out? Like, it would just
Damn, was that
randomly
sensitive?
go out for no reason. And then, like, 20 minutes later, it comes back on. And you kind of get lulled into this whole, well, it'll come back on. And there's going to come a time when it doesn't. And I've definitely had times here where the power will go off and it'll come on after about 15, 20 minutes. You have no idea what happened. But there was a time when a truck ran into a pole and literally just took out the whole neighborhood. And it went from, yeah, it'd be out for a couple hours. And then it ended up being 8 hours. And
Mm.
you figure, okay, well, 8 hours is not terrible. It's not like it's a week. People were not prepared to be out of power for 8 hours. And it was during a cold snap.
Oh,
So you didn't have
damn.
light, you didn't have heat. Now, I did. I did. But there are other folks who didn't. And just the most basic things that people are not prepared for. So it's a matter of, if your power is out for a week, what are you going to do? Do you have food that you don't need to heat up? Do you have do you have a power bank, to charge your phones? Do you have a power bank that could charge a little cooling unit that they have now in case now the summer's coming? If your power goes out and you have no AC and it's 95 degrees, do you have something to cool off? Do you have if it's summer and the power goes out, do you have a cooler and gel packs that you can put your food in to save your food? Just super simple, basic things. Most people don't have them. And so that's why I'm saying it's not a cop out to say nobody's ready for it. They're really not. They're really, really not. And I think in the city in particular, and I'm going to bring this up because this is something that, again, the lady Kim Butler was talking about, and it really just resonated with me when she said that, as far as city people and especially as Black people, we gauged her experience was, and I had to agree, we often gauge success by how far we are removed from gardening and being self-sufficient and kind of hard scrabbling for the basics. So the further away we are from those things, the more successful we feel that we are. And I'm like,
Ooh.
ooh, that hit.
That hit. Yeah, that definitely
It
hit.
really did hit. And I said she's right. And I can understand the mentality because, of course, where we came from, to be able to say, I don't have to worry about growing my food. Someone else is doing that for a change. I don't have to worry about picking my food because someone else is doing that for a change. Um, so on one hand, it's great. It does show, okay, yes, there's progress. But by the same token, it's kind of put us in a position where we don't have the same kind of skills that our grandparents, or maybe in your case, maybe your great grandparents had. I'm old enough to have, like I said, my grandmother was part of the Depression era, and my first husband, his parents were older than her, so it was nothing for me to go to her house, and she had all kinds of canned food and food that she canned and was ready to go. If anything happened, they were good for a couple of years. We
Wow.
can say that, and when you see that, you don't forget it. And after she said that, and I said, you know what, she's 100% right. But I think that while we can appreciate that kind of progress, I think we also have to look in terms of that we're always going to have to be independent and look out after ourselves. Because even with everything going on now, and especially with the climate that's going on now, that is very anti-black. Let's just say it is a very anti-black environment right now. We have to rely on our own wits, which we always have. But a lot of the creature comforts and the conveniences, we have to look less towards convenient and look more towards our ancestors and our forefathers and say, okay, this is how they got by. We did this before, and we are going to be able to do it better than anyone else, because these people now who are FAFO, they are not ready.
They were not ready for
They
this.
are
It's
not
like,
ready.
and I'm looking like they're looking for empathy, and a lot of them they are looking for empathy for the from the black community. And
No, they
hell,
ain't got it. No,
ain't
I
no
have
damn empathy.
no.
No,
I
you
have
you.
I've man, I've lost some
Mm-mm.
friendships over it because I'm not going to neglect who I am and what my background is for anyone else's comfort. And when we saw this coming, when we all saw this coming, especially that I'm a proud 92 percenter, we knew what was coming down the pike. And it just reinforced that, okay, yes, we've come a long way. Yes, we've achieved a certain status. But now that this is all being taken away, we have to be able to go back on what our forefathers had, what our ancestors did to survive, because we're going to have to do this. And we can still do that. The other folks who've never had to suffer like that are the ones that are going to have a hard time. Our biggest challenge is going to be able to fend them off, because historically, anytime that we've proven that we can be independent and have our own cities and have our own societies and thrive and feed ourselves and have our own financial systems, what happens? We
They
get
either
burned
flood,
down,
they
well,
burn us down or they flood us out.
or they put us under a lake. So,
Exactly.
that's, yeah, and being in Georgia with Lake Lanier, you know, um, it's,
Honestly, I used to have sympathy for people when it came to Lake Lanier, but then I heard the story of Oscarville. I'm like, okay,
no,
but it's
mm-mm,
fuck around and find out. I heard that story. I was like, okay, fuck around and find out now. Avoid
yeah.
Lake Lanier, damn it.
Yeah, it's like I would go there just strictly to pay homage, to pay homage to those, But
Yeah,
again, it's the story of our resilience, and I think we're going to need to rely on that more than ever. And we have so many. We've always had black farmers. We've never not had them, and they've always gotten the short end of the stick when it comes to funding. When it comes to the USDA, the USDA just treats them like crap and still does. Right now, there's a lawsuit in progress right now because finally, okay, just to go back a little bit, when the orange Jesus went and did all the tariffs the last time he was in office, he was killing the farmers, and everyone said, "Don't do this. You are going to kill the farmers." Now, don't get me wrong; farmers get the short end of the stick. I never understand why teachers and farmers get treated so crappy when they teach our kids and feed us, but that's just how
exactly.
we are. Um, but the farmers are already getting a raw deal, so of course, if the white farmers are getting a raw deal, we're getting an even rawer deal. So when they said, "Oh wow, those tariffs really were a mistake. I guess we need to go back, and now we have to give all this money to the farmers." I was like, you wouldn't have had to do that if you didn't do tariffs, but who am I? But
Mm-hmm.
of course, the black farmers got the short end of the stick with that. So they ended up filing a lawsuit, which is still in progress, and now there's a new one. So, even with that, we're still getting the short end of the stick. So we need to really just realize that we need to get back to that resilience and say, okay, we need to be ready to feed ourselves, be ready to support ourselves, be ready to support each other, support those co-ops, these creators that you see on TikTok and that you see on Instagram, these black farmers, these co-ops, these creators. You do need to support them, because these people are going to feed us. They're doing everything that they can to goad us, to get us into the street, to get us into trouble so they can declare martial law. And we just need to continue to rest and do what we're doing, but we need to prepare. And part of our preparedness, as a group, not just as humans, because all humans need to prepare, but just as a particular group, um, we need to just be able to draw on those resources and support those resources because they're always getting the short end of the stick. So this is our chance to support them while feeding ourselves with good, nutritious food for us and our kids.
Yes, yes. And also we need to get back to supporting our black owned businesses and also stop talking shit like, hey, just because it costs a little more to support the black owned business, I'm like, well fuck it. Go pay the extra dollar because there's a reason why it costs more at a black owned business compared to your normal, regular, degular, everyday business because those motherfuckers are billionaires. These people are living out here on those businesses. So we definitely need to get back to supporting everything black and also black folks, and don't support the ones that seem like they're Trump supporters because hey, they got to find out the hard way.
Well, and that is a tough homecoming. I just saw something recently on Byron Donalds, and it's like, dude, you and Candace are a couple of islands. Good luck with that. That's a whole other topic. But as far as black-owned businesses, yes, we do need to do that. But what people need to remember in general, the reason why a lot of the products we receive now are so cheap is because volume. When you're a billionaire and you're running a billionaire business, you can afford to get discounts in volume. You can produce things in volume and get these different discounts. When you're a smaller business, regardless of the color of the company running it, you're paying more out of pocket because you're not having that volume. You're not getting those kind of discounts. So that's naturally going to cost you more. And if you're a company that is going to go all natural, because you have to remember all of the artificial things that they put in our food and in our products that are generally not good for us, they just save them money. So that's another reason why the things are cheaper. You have no idea what's in this stuff. A lot of the companies that are doing things that are with natural products or they're doing things organically, that whole process is more expensive. So you're paying hopefully for a better quality product than what we've been used to. I mean, I'm a Gen Xer. They experimented on us for days. Everything that we have now, all the dyes and all of that fun stuff, we were the guinea pigs. That's why we're a hot mess. My my generation is a hot mess. We we survived it all because we were the guinea pigs.
Yeah,
And you have to
y'all were.
respect.
I definitely appreciate y'all. Unlike other millennials who dog and talk shit about y'all,
They
I
talk
definitely
about us
show
all day.
love.
Listen, we really don't give a fuck. We don't. We absolutely do not. When they have those shirts that say Gen X, we don't. When we grew up on lead and neglect, not a lie.
Hmm.
Our parents, and look, my parents were great. They were, but you figure in the terms of history, folks that the boomer parents, the younger boomer parents, like the ones that were my parents' age, it was at a time where women were able to work and have their own credit and have their own money. Men were making more money than they ever could. The cost of living was still very low. You could go out and they were partying. You figure I was born in 1969, so by the time I was old enough to take care of myself, which is whenever they was like, wow, we can party, we can go out and have a good time, we can buy houses, we can buy cars, everything is still affordable. So they were out having a good time, and they were like, "You good? Here's some keys. Put them around your neck and hang out." And we were like, okay." And then women were like, "You know, I don't have to be with this guy. This guy's a douche. I don't need to be with this guy. I make my own money. This guy's a dick. I got my own money. I don't need to be married to this guy. I can go and have the life that I want and live comfortably and not have to put up with this dude." So there was a whole bunch of divorces. So we were the first generation of latchkey kids. So yeah, we really don't have a whole hell of a lot to show, but there's a reason why we're going to survive the apocalypse. We're ready. when this
Yeah,
money came around, they were like, "You guys are going to be locked down in your houses and you have to fend for yourself." Gen X was like, "We've been waiting for this our whole lives. We've been doing it anyway."
yeah, yeah. That's why I have to give y'all props because hey, y'all were ready for this. It's this generation, like some millennial. I feel bad for the generations come behind because they ain't gonna know what the hell
Really
to do
ready.
without technology. And then a lot of their attitudes and stuff. I'm like, y'all gonna be that fuck around to find out generation, and y'all gonna
Yeah.
be humbled really quick.
Unless, yeah, I have one cousin who's a millennial, and we kind of joke about it. But he grew up with he's we have a very tight family, so he grew up with me, and he knows I'm crazy. And of course, my parents are boomers, so he has that kind of connection to how we've kind of had to make do and get by, and why I'm batshit. So he kind of respects that. He gets that the folks behind him might who don't have that kind of connection to how things used to be. You know, it, the ones that don't are really going to have a hard time adjusting. Which again, that goes down to preparedness. It's like you're not when you don't have internet. I grew up in a time where we didn't have internet. We didn't have cell phones, which is why come home by the streetlights were a thing. We had no other way. And these kids that are so attached to technology, if we have one of the things that preppers worry about is an EMP attack, which is when they take down the entire grid. So you have no electricity, you have no internet,
Oh wow.
and that is what it is. It's a pulse. An actual EMP stands for electromagnetic pulse, which I probably have too much wine. Maybe I'm saying that right, but it's called EMP. And what it does is it literally takes out the entire grid. And because our infrastructure is so poor, our grid really is a piece of crap. It would literally take a few years for a portion of it to come back. And I'm not exaggerating. This is
Wow.
truth. It's going to be a couple of years before, and you figure, okay, first they're going to get the government running because they have to, and then after that it'll be the major cities. So if you're in Podunk, USA, you're screwed. That's
Hold on,
pretty
yeah.
much it. If you're in New York, LA, Atlanta, some of the bigger cities, they might get you going first, but you're still looking at a couple of years. And again, if you're an older generation, you didn't grow up with the internet. So you're like, all right, whatever, we'll have to figure it out. But if you're someone who's gotten used to technology as always being there and you've always relied on it, it's a little tough. So when I tell folks, have a go, when you have your go bag, if you had to grab your bag and go, have a paper map in it. And they're like, what's a paper map? That thing when GPS goes down, you can't use your phone.
Oh wow, I forgot this generation don't know nothing about paper maps or MapQuest or man.
No, MapQuest always tough. MapQuest was terrible.
You're actually right. MapQuest is always terrible, and you realize that when you're leaving a place. I'm like, damn, MapQuest ain't shit. I
No,
got it.
no. I mean, it was better than nothing, but before that, you learn by trial and error. You literally learned by trial and error. You had to get lost before you figured out what it was you were doing. And as someone who traveled by themselves late at night, because I was a musician, so I used to travel late at night by myself, and God knows what kind of areas, and Lord knows I got extremely lucky that nothing ever happened to me. But it was trial and error. It's like, well, what if I turn here? Ooh, that was bad. That was a mistake. And it's like now with GPS, which was created by a Black woman, by the way.
Hmm.
When you get so used to that, you're just used to, oh, I don't even have to really think about it. You don't even memorize. We don't think about it. We don't remember telephone numbers anymore. We don't remember really directions anymore. We just have to throw in the GPS. We don't have to think about that. Someone asked me what my dad's cell phone number was, and I'm like,
Does
uh,
does my dad even have a
I
cell
don't.
phone?
It's like I was literally buffering because before cell phones, you had to remember your phone number.
You really did. You had to write down your number, or you had to have the beeper number, and I'm like,
Yeah, now it's like you can't remember anything because everything else does it for you, and we've just become so lazy.
yeah,
We can't do.
that's why knock on wood, nothing happens to the grid to where it's like because America will be fucked, but I feel like other countries they will be a little more prepared for it because I'm looking at the Eastern culture. It's like they put more money into technology and being
Right.
prepared for this stuff compared to America, where we just dump all our money into the military and other shit that benefit the billionaires.
Yeah, and I mean, we really needed to put money into the infrastructure, which was what was happening until. But anyway, because I mean, it's so important, and our infrastructure is basically crap, and we keep putting more and more into it, and now you add in AI, which is a whole nother topic. But AI is such an energy suck. People don't really fathom. I mean, AI is great, but people don't realize how much power it takes to run AI. Just as an example, I don't know if you've heard the news about how people in Memphis are extremely upset because Elonia went in there and set up this power,
Supercomputer, yeah.
the XAI. I hate even mentioning his name. The XAI that he installed in Memphis. What it takes to run that place today, I think it's 130 gallons of water and enough energy to power 120,000 households per day, not
You
per
know,
year.
you know what they're trying to do, right? I think that was done by design. It's like they tried to do a design to get the black people out of there because of gentrification. Because they want that area. They want to create something, get the black people out of there, then resell it, then fix it up, and then sell it back and jack up the prices, get all the black people out of there. It's gentrification.
I'm leaning more towards they put those things there just like how they put cell towers and garbage dumps and other things in areas that are predominantly with black and brown people because they don't care. They figure, okay, if they have extra cancer, if they have end up with learning disabilities, we don't care. And even though XAI, because I will not say he's like Voldemort, he who will not be named. When the company swears that they're going to build a power station that and a gray water station that's going to help offset the so-called pollution and the different things that they say it's going to cause. But if you believe it, I believe it. But the thing is, they don't care. That's why they put those things there because we're there.
That's pretty
So
much what
I
it
don't
is.
know. I don't know if they're trying to sell the land now after a disaster. Yes, like what happened with Katrina. Absolutely. I mean, I think that was perfect. That's a clean slate. Just wipe them out and gentrify. I think that's more of a case for it. But in the case of Memphis, it's like, there's nothing there but poor black folks that are shooting each other. Let's just stick it over there. The real estate's cheap, and we don't care what happens to them. We already know he don't care.
Of
So we
course he
already
don't
know.
care. But he don't
We,
realize that there are some poor white folks that live there too.
but they don't care about them either. And the problem is that white folks don't realize it yet.
Yeah,
Only
I feel like
when
I
they
feel like white
purge that
folks
gene,
all mm-hmm.
they got to
Go
purge
ahead.
that gene. That gene where and it's I can't say it's ancient, but from the very beginning when super poor white folks and black folks were in the fields and they were together, they were like, okay, we're in the same boat. We're all broke. We have nothing. We have no real estate. We can never own anything. And the rich folks realized that they were severely outnumbered. And the last thing they needed was this entire underclass raising against them. So what do? You take the white guy and say, you know what, you're better than that guy because you look more like us. So we're going to give you an extra buck. And from that point forward, it's kind of germinated the seed of you're not them, so you're always going to get better. It doesn't matter that you're poor, it doesn't matter that you're dirtier, it doesn't matter that you're dumber, it doesn't matter. You have the right skin. And they've never lost that. So that's why they're willing to shoot themselves in the foot so that nobody else can have it. They've given up so
Mm,
much so that other people can suffer. And I even put that on a podcast, which is pretty because I pretty much try to be apolitical. But one of the social things that I did mention is that until people reconcile that need to feel that somehow they're better than anyone else, even if they continue to suffer. Until you lose that, it's never going to get better for anybody. They have to get past that, and they just won't. Think of all the free
yeah.
stuff that they gave up so that we couldn't have it. And now they have to pay for
Mm-hmm.
it. And then it became more expensive. And that's why their kids can't afford to buy houses. And that's why their kids can't get tips because the tip system was based on us not having to pay us. But now your kids need to work that barista job and they're not getting tips either. And now they can't afford
Yeah.
to buy into your neighborhood. And now they can't afford to buy that lifestyle because you're trying to price everybody else up. But now you've priced out your own kids.
And that's the one thing those people don't realize. It's like you hurting everybody else trying to punish black folks. Like everything you put into place, you're trying to punish black folks. But especially with like welfare and benefits, you look at it, it's more white folks on welfare and the government benefits than it is black
Theirs is
folks.
different. And the thing is, they still think theirs is different. Yeah, I mean, the biggest holler for me was when they were like, what do you mean the Affordable Care Act is the same thing as Obamacare? And I'm like, you cannot be serious right now. They had no idea so many of them had no idea it was the same thing. They thought that their welfare was better than everyone else's welfare. They thought their food stamps was different than somebody else's food stamps. It's like, oh my God, I can't. This is the problem. That's the problem. It's like, no, you get welfare and you get the same food stamps. So now we
They,
finally have a guy that's making it very plain that he doesn't care for any of us. If you're not part of the 1%, he doesn't care about you. But as long as they have this thing that they are a temporarily embarrassed millionaire and that one day they can be him, until that wool falls off, they're always going to continue to shoot themselves in the foot and think that their dirt is better than our dirt. It's the expression with the white man's ice is colder. It's like, no, it's really not. But they have to realize it. And
Yeah.
that's always going to keep America down. That's why we will never ascend to the level that that we are capable of because of this. We let middling people believe that if they just can keep other people from having, then they'll be okay. That's why we have people like Pete Hegseth running our military.
Mm. It's sad. It's sad. It's so sad, and it's like I got a
It's
friend of I got a friend of mine who does podcasts, exclusive on politics. I could tell when he gets fed up, and I'm just like, it's like it just feels like there's no solution. So, which is why I understand why I see so many Black Americans hauling ass and going to live abroad and live in different countries. I'm like, I'm gonna get to the point. I'm like, look, I'm about to join y'all because
Yeah,
shit.
it's frustrating, but as someone who has a generation, I mean, I've my family, because the military was our way. That was a way to for our way to prosperity. And every time there was a war, Black Americans always did better. Anytime post war, we always did better. Um, my dad was in the army. Both my husbands were in the service. I mean, my uncles were in the service. So many members of my family were in the service. So for part of me, it's very difficult to say, screw this place, I'm out of here, because so much of my family and other families have bled literally for a country that still gave them less, but was still better than the alternative a lot of the time. So for that
Mm.
reason, it's kind of hard for me to say, well, screw this place. But then this other day, like yesterday, I was like, fuck this. I am so out of here. I was talking to my mom, like, Mom, seriously? This close? I am this close to getting the hell up out of here. But, you have to, we've shed so much blood for this country. It's, you know, if we're here, we have to be able to sustain and we have to be willing to fight because that's what it's going to come down to. Yeah, and I think we're about as close to an underclass uprising and a civil war as we've ever been. And the only thing that's going to save us is if the poor white folks realize that they're no different than us in the eyes of the people that control everything.
Exactly, and also, and living in Florida, I see the Latinos and the Cubans for Trump. I'm like, you guys are so dumb. Y'all, they look at y'all just like they look at us. Y'all are so
They're not
dumb while
so
y'all out
dumb.
here going hard for this man. I'm like, y'all are so dumb.
With the little songs and everything like that, and like
Yeah,
now they're getting rounded up, and they're like, "But where are the black people?" And we're like, "Are they kidding right now?
it's
You
like
gotta be kidding." It's
you.
like you counted they counted so much on their proximity to whiteness or wanting to be white, and then when people remind them that no, you're brown and you're really no better than these people, then like, oh wait, but we need your help. It's like, oh, no, 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 no.
Now, now,
Give
now,
it to
keep. Now we need y'all to keep that same energy because also, where the hell were y'all at when there were cops out here killing us?
Yeah, they like to say that they were there now, and maybe some of them were. And the thing is, I agree. It's a truce sort of where we have supported each other to some degree, and it's the support has been there for each other to some degree, but this level of betrayal is very difficult to come back from. Like I said, I've sacrificed friendships that I've had for decades because of because of politics, where it didn't before.
Yeah.
When you're looking at a situation where I'm worrying whether or not a friend of mine is going to just get deported, or whether or not, yeah, I'm going to lose rights that my forefathers died for. But you're okay with that for what? For eggs? It's it's different. It's definitely different this time. And for people to say, "Well, I'm sorry," because you have folks now. It's like, well, we really need these people. We need to bring them back into the fold, and we need to let them know that we understand they made a mistake, but we need the numbers. No, no, I can't trust you now. The trust is
Yeah, you
gone.
showed me your true colors. That's
Yeah.
what it is. You showed me your true colors, and I gotta believe you the first time. Whenever you show your true colors, you have to do that.
What did Maya say? When someone shows you who they are the first time, believe them.
Always.
And here we are. So, we have our allies, and there's absolute allies out there that did all they could and are doing all that they can. And the coolest ones are the ones that are saying this whole thing going on tomorrow about, April 5th, we all got to take to the streets. And black folks are like, yeah, good luck with that. We're staying home.
Yeah.
And you have the white folks are like, well, how come the black people, especially the black women, why are they not showing up? It's like, are you high? Don't read the room. But then you have the other white folks and the other Latinos who are like, no, y'all stand down. We got this. We know what they're up to. And those are the people that we have to protect because those are the true allies.
Yeah, we always gotta look out for the ones. There's a small few we have to look out for as allies because there are a small few that they're down with the cause, and I'm like, you know what? I salute y'all because y'all are more there than some actual black people who try to be out here. I'm like, who I just look at them like, y'all are some stupid ass Uncle Toms.
Yeah, I had a friend who actually said to me, well, what about the people who like him that don't who look like you who don't think like that? And I'm like, what black MAGA? Are you kidding? Yeah, my favorite moment, the capsule that we should keep in mind, the video capsule, is when they showed all of those the black folks that went to Trump to celebrate Black History Month, which is hilarious. It's hilarious. So they're all there in their bow ties and their red hats. Yeah, we're in the White House. Woo! Woo! And then the next day they fired the Joint Chiefs of Staff.
And also I gotta look at also the fact that I looked at his cabinet members. You don't see one person of color.
Like
And
DEI. Oh, you want to talk DEI? That's a whole bunch of DEI. And of course, we know that the way that they define it is absolutely incorrect. But if you want to talk about your incorrect definition of DEI, it's sitting up there in that cabinet right now. There is not one person up there except for the one guy, and he happens to be gay, which is hilarious. The one guy that is absolutely qualified. I think it's Bassett, the guy, the financial dude. He's the only one who's qualified. The rest of them are freaking hacks. Tulsi Gabbard is a hack. Hegseth is a hack. Bondi is a hack. Who's the other freak that's up there? Oh, the wrestling chick. I mean, really? In charge of education?
Linda McMahon, yeah, Linda McMahon. Like, how y'all put her in charge of education, but y'all trying to dismantle the Department of Education?
But you're going to say that the black folks side of it, I mean, you could not get more decorated than the man that was Joint Chiefs of Staff. And you're going to replace him by the drunk guy that had a stint in the Army. That's the guy. And you're going to say that the guy who could not be more decorated by the armed forces, he's the DEI hire? Are you high? And that's, so when people say, oh, he's not racist. Okay, really? Look at that cabinet. And all of those people that went and tap danced, the Candace Owens, the Byron Donalds, the Tim Scotts. Oh God, Tim Scott. All those people, all those people that went out there. I mean, Byron died. That man let some guy rub his head after his. The cringe factor of letting somebody pat you on the back of the head like a good little Negro. Oh my God, it made me physically sick. And he's still up there defending it. And not one of them, all that shucking and driving, and not one of them got a place in the cabinet. Not one. Not one. And Candace Owens, not only did she get fired from a show, she didn't get a spot either. And Lord knows he's been giving spots to people with even, with less visibility. So all of that for nothing. You just sold everybody out for absolutely nothing. And then when you lose your political career, because think about it, when Byron Donaldson's not going to become governor of Florida. It's not going to happen. It's not happening. So once he no longer has a political career, where's he going to go?
He might go. He might be like, what's that guy name? Andrew Gilliam. He might just go missing like Andrew Gilliam. He might just go. The guy that listen, he was the mayor of Tallahassee, and he was running against Ron DeSantis, and that's the guy that lost to Ron DeSantis. That he was pushing to be the first black governor in Florida, and many people felt like he could have won, but the rest of Florida, outside of Tampa, Orlando, Miami, Jacksonville, and Tallahassee.
People have got to remember once you get outside of certain areas, it's just a whole bunch of them, and they don't want none of us. They will shoot themselves in the foot rather than.
Always.
Well, what's the dude from North Carolina? I have a mental block on his name because he's so gross. But the guy from North Carolina, the one that was like he called himself a Black Klansman. I'm like, what are you gonna do with yourself now? You have what political career are you gonna have? You spent your token. Where are you going? We don't want you. They didn't want you in the first place.
That's cool. You might have to go in hiding because I don't know.
Yeah, it's rough out there. So
it is.
And the thing is, what's sad is that on one hand, the good news is that you know who you can trust. It's taught us who we can trust, and it's also taught a lot of those folks. It's like, wow, they really don't care about any of us unless we've got $1 billion. They don't care about us either. So Yeah, it's just a matter of just really picking and choosing, because it's not just a fragmentation of society, it's personal relationships. I mean, kids that don't talk to their parents anymore. Like I said, I've had friendship that I had for decades. There's a one lady that I know since I was 9 years old. We don't speak anymore.
Wow, that's sad.
She joined the cult,
Yeah,
and
don't. Yeah,
yeah.
it's sad. People don't join the damn code. Now what is one thing? What's one small step that people can do to start preparing themselves? Since there's a lot of things that they
But
do not.
we went all over the place.
I know we went all over the place. That's the beautiful thing about podcasting. That's the beautiful thing about podcasting. We having a good conversation. You go all around the world, but hey, it happens.
Yeah, and people are going to be shocked because this is the most political that I've been on anybody's show. Because I'm usually pretty apolitical, so people are going to be like, "Holy shit, what just
Yeah,
happened?"
and listen, people listening to Liquor Talk are gonna be shocked that I get political too, because I usually defer to one of my buddies who he is very political. I usually defer to him, so he gonna love this episode.
Oh boy. But yeah, I mean, as far as just in general getting ready, um, just pulling from the recent conversation, excuse me, find out who you can. It's more important than ever to know who you can trust, because what what I feel, and maybe this is the prepper in me, and again, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but Orange Jesus has this fascination with North Korea. And the thing that maybe people don't realize about North Korea is that they're completely autonomous. Everything they need is built and made in North Korea. If they can't make it, they don't have it. The people live in poverty. There's a certain class of people that are above everybody, whatever. We're kind of getting to that point where we're becoming so isolated, and we're expected to kind of do things on our own. So I think it's important. Part of that culture is to rat out people that aren't loyal
Mm-hmm.
to the powers that be. So it's very important to know who you can trust and keep them close to your vest. Stay aware. I realize that there's this onslaught of news, and 99% of it's terrible. That's by design. The and Steve Bannon said it. It's flooding the zone, and I've done a couple of a podcast and a blog on it. It's called Flooding the Zone. And what it is that you pile so much information at people that people either throw their hands up because they can't handle it, or they just kind of coddle themselves in their kind of echo chamber because it's easier for them to deal with. You have to find a way to just kind of filter through, find the issues that matter the most to you, and ride those out to the end. So if it's bodily autonomy, if it's food security, if it's rights, whatever it is your pet right, whatever your pet issue is, follow those and don't allow yourself to be overwhelmed by this barrage of stuff. So you want to have the people you trust. You want to have protect yourself from the barrage of bad news. You want to focus on what matters to you, um, and make sure that you have access. You have the basics. You want to make sure, especially now that they're talking about gutting FEMA, they're talking about gutting NOAA. So not only are you not going to have federal relief if there's a disaster, you're also not going to know if one's coming if they get their way. So you want to have definitely at least make sure that you have enough to sustain you for a couple of weeks, because if a disaster happens, whether it's a tornado, a hurricane, flooding, you want to make sure that you have what you need to ride it out. So make sure next time you go to the store, get a couple of packs of water, those bottled water. Get a couple of power banks. You can get a power bank, $20-$30 and up. You can get a power station. These are things that can power your CPAP. These are things that can power your phone, a laptop, so you can stay in touch. Get a NOAA radio. So even if the power goes out or you lose internet, you can still get weather alerts. You can still find out where there's resources in your area. You want to have the bare minimum. And if at all possible, support. If you can't grow your own as much as you can. If you can't, start building a network with farmers. Especially now that it's growing season and you have your farmers markets and things now. Support those people, because those folks are going to be hit very hard by these tariffs. And with the weather's not helping the farmers, because they can't predict. It's changing the seasons, it's changing how things grow. So you want to support them and find ways to preserve food so that you always have. You never want to be without food, because whoever controls the food controls the people. So make sure that you have a store of food. So whether it's you want to learn how to dehydrate, you want to learn how to can, make friends with those folks who garden, get into the idea of bartering. If you have a skill that you can trade for maybe some food or for supplies, this is where we're headed. And they're putting us in the position that those who don't know, don't have a support system, that don't have a system of people they can trust, that don't have resources, those that's how they exercise control. So the more autonomous you are and the more of a support system you have, the better you will be regardless of what happens. And even if the worst doesn't happen, you still are self-sufficient. Even if the most basic thing happens, you still have um, a cushion for yourself and for your family.
That's real. Those are some great tips out there. Those are some things we definitely take into consideration. And lastly, Miss Lynn, why do people need to subscribe to the Urban Lady Prepper podcast?
Please, I am small. I'm proud to say that I'm about at 6,500 downloads and I'm not even a year old, which isn't, a whole, doesn't seem like a lot, but it's a lot for me as someone who doesn't really market or anything like that. Organic. So every subscription on YouTube, every sign up for the newsletter that I do weekly, I promise I do not bombard you with emails. All of that helps. And again, I'm not in it to become, rich or anything or a star. That's never been my thing. Well, even when I was a musician, I was a bass player. I'm happy to be in the back. Don't even pay attention to me. I'm cool. It's about getting the information out there. So, signing up for the newsletter, paying attention to the blogs. You follow me on the socials. I have blogs that talk about everything from understanding martial law to how to can. Even if you're vegan, how you can how to store food if you're vegan, how you can do long term gardening, how all these community, how to build a community for resilience in case there's a disaster. All those things are there, and it's free. So donations are welcome, of course, but all that information is there. And I just think it's important for people to really start paying attention to this because it's only going to get worse from here. It's not going to get better, people. It's not. So now's the time.
Yes, now's the time. Well, Lynn, I want to thank you for blessing the Liquor Talk with your presence. This was definitely an amazing conversation. You definitely put the people up on game. Thank you for your assistance with that. And whenever you need me to come on your podcast, just let me know. Remember, I'm in Florida, but I'm just a DM away.
Yeah, you're one state, literally one state away. So until I move, you are right there. And thank you for making me drink because I probably talked a lot more truth than I probably would have otherwise. So hopefully, your listeners appreciate that. I know my listeners are probably still clutching their pearls, but we'll find out.
They're listening and they will be all right. Hey, they've been put on some game. They will appreciate it.
And if not, it is what it is. If nothing else, I just try to be honest, and I try to be gently honest. And now more than ever, we need honesty and we need people to be real and truthful. And it's kind of harder to find places to get true information and make trust. And I want to be one of those people that people can say, okay, well, I know she's going to research her information. I know she's not talking a whole bunch of crap. I know she's not bought by anybody. And those are the kind of networks that we want to build. So, yeah.
Yes. Those are definitely networks we want to build. And also, thank you to everybody for tuning into this episode of the Liquor Talk podcast. Tell me, what did you think of this episode? Please email me, comment, let us know, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you to everybody that's subscribed on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever you get your podcasts at. Also, shout out to the MBG Podcast Network and the Podmatch Podcast Network. Until the next episode, ladies and gentlemen, we are out this thing. Take a couple shots for you, boy, and we out this thing. Peace.